Walked through my front door, dropping my keys in shock. Printed emails, photos, and messages were taped to every wall. My vision blurred as I reached the counter, where a single page waited. Check your retirement fund. I opened my account and let out a shaky, panicked breath. I'm a creature of routine. Always have been. Same route to work. Same lunch spot. I've worked at the same construction supply company in Arlington, Texas for the past 27 years. I'd been planning to retire early at 58 and spend time fixing up my father's old cabin up in Broken Bow. That was the dream. That Thursday started like every other. I stopped by the Kroger near my office after work. Picked up eggs, coffee, and some frozen stir-fry stuff. Grabbed Chinese takeout too, General Tso's, extra spicy, my favorite. The weather was decent, warm for April. I remember humming an old Skinner tune in the car on the drive home. But the second I opened the front door, my world changed. I barely got 2 steps in before my brain short-circuited. My keys slipped out of my hand and clattered to the floor. The grocery bag hit the tile. The takeout spilled, sweet sauce spreading like blood on the floor. It looked like someone had raided my email, my texts, and maybe even my memories. Printed screenshots were taped everywhere. From the front hallway, to the dining room, to the living room. Taped with care, perfectly aligned like someone had measured the spacing. Some pages were emails. Some were private text messages. Conversations I had with coworkers, friends, even old flames from years back. A few were photos. A couple of me out at bars. One with my arm around my friend Derek at a poker night, clearly drunk. One of me and my ex-wife from over a decade ago. Another of me hugging a coworker goodbye, platonic, but it could be twisted if someone wanted to. The longer I looked, the more it felt like this wasn't random. This was a message. And then I saw it. On the counter, like the centerpiece of it all, was a single sheet of paper. In huge, thick black font it said, "Check your retirement fund." I didn't move at first. Just stood there, stomach churning. My mind blank. Then I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and opened the Fidelity app. The screen loaded. I expected to see the usual. Around $1.4 million. It had taken me decades to save, through bonuses, employer matches, and strict budgeting. But what I saw was nothing. Literally $0. Not a cent. At first, I thought it was a glitch. I refreshed it 3 times. Still 0. Then I saw the transaction history. A full withdrawal had been processed 2 days ago. I dropped the phone. My knees hit the floor. I had to put my hand on the stool just to stay upright. Gone. Everything. All my savings. My future. My plan. And somehow, it was tied to these walls. That's when I saw the envelope. Tucked under the page on the counter. No name. Just, "Open me." Inside was one photo. It was of my wife. Standing outside a bank. Smiling. Next to her? My best friend, Mark. And I swear to God, he was holding a check. I stared at that photo for maybe 5 minutes. Couldn't breathe right. Couldn't think. My wife, Vanessa, had said she was going to Houston for a girls' weekend last Friday. I didn't question it. I trusted her. We'd been married 14 years. Sure, we had our problems. Things had been quiet lately, but I figured that was just life settling down. People grow comfortable. At least, that's what I told myself. But now I'm looking at a photo of her, dressed in that blue cardigan I gave her last Christmas, standing outside a bank branch that isn't even in Houston. It's right here in Arlington. And she's smiling like it's the best day of her life. My best friend, Mark, is right beside her. He's holding something in his hand. I zoomed in on the picture. It was a cashier's check. Big one. I picked up my phone again, but my fingers were still shaking. I couldn't even get the passcode in right. After the 3rd try, I slammed it on the counter. Mark and I had been friends since high school. We played ball together. He was the best man at my wedding. We used to work together until he got laid off during COVID and never quite bounced back. I helped him out when he needed it. Gave him cash more than once. Let him stay at the cabin when he went through his divorce. I thought he was family. Turns out I was the sucker. I started pacing, stepping over spilled rice and broken soy sauce packets like none of it mattered. Because it didn't anymore. Everything I built, everything I trusted, was gone. My thoughts went to Vanessa's laptop. She always kept it in the den. I grabbed it and powered it up. She never logged out of anything. She was careless like that. Her email was open. The first thing I saw was a folder titled Exit Plan. I clicked it. Inside were dozens of emails. Plans. Conversations. Bank account numbers. Fake addresses. My name was all over the place. So was Mark's. They'd been planning this for over a year. Fake accounts. Backdated power of attorney documents. She even forged my signature on several withdrawal forms. They'd faked a financial hardship story and used it to push through an early full withdrawal from my 401k. And it worked. The money was gone. Transferred to a new joint account under both their names. But the worst part wasn't the theft. It was reading their messages. Stuff like, "He still has no clue. God, I can't wait to be done pretending. Once we're out, he'll probably just drink himself into a coma. He deserves it. He's boring as hell and doesn't even see what's right in front of him." It was like reading someone write your obituary before you even died. I was shaking so hard I thought I'd throw up. And that's when I realized something. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was war. And they thought I'd roll over. But they didn't know what I kept in that old metal file box in the garage. The one no one else ever touched. They didn't know I had a backup plan. I pulled the file box from behind the tool shelf in the garage. It was covered in dust and smelled faintly of gasoline. I hadn't opened it in years. Vanessa never paid it much attention. I told her it was just old receipts and junk. But inside was everything she didn't know about me. Old bank statements from before we got married. A separate credit union account in Tulsa with about $86,000 in it. Leftover money from the sale of my dad's land. Cash she didn't know I had. A copy of my original 401k plan documents. And a USB drive I hadn't looked at since 2013. That drive had surveillance footage. Old stuff. I'd installed a couple cameras in the house years ago, after our place got broken into. I stopped checking the footage once we got comfortable again. But the system still saved clips. The motion sensor triggers stayed live. I plugged it into my laptop. Most of it was boring, just us walking around, TV glare, the cat jumping on the counter. But then I saw something. A clip from 2 months ago. It was Vanessa. And Mark. In our bedroom. At 2:37 a.m. I don't even have words for what I saw. She didn't just cheat. She did it in our bed. With my best friend. While I was in the hospital that night with my brother after his heart attack. They were laughing. Drinking my bourbon. Wearing my clothes. I paused the clip and sat there in silence. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the screen while my mind started working through a new plan. They thought they were clever. Careful. That I'd never find out. That I'd just take it, fade out, and disappear. But I'm not built like that. The next day, I called in sick. First time in over 5 years. Then I drove 2 hours to Tyler, Texas, to see my cousin Joe. He's not the cleanest guy in the world. Spent some time inside back in the day. But Joe knows how to find people, hide assets, and push paperwork through cracks that most people don't even know exist. I told him everything. He nodded slow, lit a cigarette and said, "You want to destroy them or just get your money back?" I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Why not both?" Joe got to work. He knew a guy who could trace digital transfers. He also knew someone who used to work at the same bank where Vanessa and Mark had cashed the check. We found the account. It was under a shell business Mark had registered 2 years ago. Fake landscaping company. Opened a week he lost his job. And then came the real twist. The account had already been tapped. By someone else. I blinked at the screen. What do you mean someone else? Joe leaned forward. Another transfer. Not to Vanessa. Not to Mark. He pulled up the record. It was sent to a woman named Cheryl Houghton. I didn't know the name. But Joe did. Holy shit, he said. That's Mark's ex-wife. Turns out Vanessa wasn't the only one with secrets. Mark had been funneling money to his ex. Vanessa didn't know. Neither of them knew the other was skimming from the top. And just like that, I knew how I'd burn them both. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to let the fire spread, just a little push here, a little proof there. I had what I needed. It was time to play dumb. I went home that night and acted like nothing happened. Vanessa wasn't there. She said she was staying late, helping her sister with wedding plans. Sure. I cleaned up the mess from the photos and printouts. Tore them down, burned them in the backyard pit. I saved a few key ones. Put them in an envelope. Addressed it to her with no return name. Over the next week, I smiled more than I had in years. I cooked dinner. Kissed her on the cheek when she came home. I even asked her if she wanted to take a weekend trip. To reconnect. She smiled like she'd won the lottery. Mark called me 2 days later. Said he was in town and wanted to grab a drink. I agreed. We met at a small bar downtown. He looked worn out. Pale. Sweaty. He was jittery, tapping the table, glancing over his shoulder. I played the part. Told him work was stressful. That I was thinking of selling the cabin. That maybe I was ready to let go of the past. He gave me this weird smile and said, "That's the right idea, man. Sometimes you just gotta let go of stuff to move on." That night, I sent Vanessa a text. "You're right. Let's start fresh." She replied with a heart emoji. 3 days later, I mailed copies of everything to the IRS, 2 banks, and a DA's office. The photos. The emails. The forged documents. The hidden accounts. I also mailed a special package to Cheryl Houghton, Mark's ex-wife. Inside, screenshots of transfers, fake tax IDs, and a message that said, "He's been playing both of you. Now play him." Then I waited. It didn't take long. Vanessa got the letter I sent to her, anonymously. When she opened it, she didn't say anything. But I watched her. Watched the fear crawl up her neck when she realized she wasn't in control anymore. That night she didn't sleep. By the end of the week, the account was frozen. Investigators started asking questions. A fraud case was opened. Vanessa tried to act surprised. She told them Mark must have forged everything. That she was manipulated. A victim. But she didn't know I had recordings. I gave them to the authorities. Audio from the cameras. Her voice. His voice. Planning. Laughing. Bragging. It all came out. Mark tried to run. He got picked up at a motel outside Austin with $17,000 in cash and a suitcase full of burner phones. Vanessa lawyered up. She tried to save herself by turning on him. But it was too late. They traced the fake documents to her computer. Her login. Her IP. It was all tied back. Turns out Cheryl, Mark's ex, was more than happy to cooperate with the feds once she saw proof of everything. The final blow came when the IRS froze both their assets. Everything was seized. My money? Most of it was gone. But not all. With Joe's help, I recovered about $350,000. And I still had my Tulsa account. It wasn't what I planned, but it was enough. I filed for divorce. Quietly. No fanfare. When I left, I didn't even look back. But here's the thing. I wasn't clean either. I'd ignored the signs. I let the distance grow. I trusted too easily. I believed in people who didn't earn it. So yeah, maybe part of this was my fault. But the punishment? That was all theirs. Vanessa got 3 years. Fraud and conspiracy. Mark got 6. Wire fraud. Tax evasion. I rebuilt. Smaller place. Quiet town outside Denton. Started working part-time at a local hardware store. Simple life. But every so often, when the night's real still, I pour a glass of bourbon, sit on the porch, and pull out that one photo. The one of Vanessa and Mark outside the bank. And I smile. Because they thought they took everything. But they didn't. They just gave me a reason to finish what they started.